Under the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, every child should grow up in a family environment, in an atmosphere of happiness, love and understanding. Yet across West Africa, hundreds of thousands of children are taken from their homes and set to work. These boys forced to beg on behalf of their masters, their childhoods snatched away. They are modern slaves. This is their story.
My name is HANIFE KANTE. I used to go to an Islamic school, but I ran away because they beat me. My parents sent me back, so I ran away again. They beat me still, so I left once more and went into the streets and eventually came to this place.
Hanif and his footballing friends are the fortunate few. They were picked from the streets by Avenir de l'Enfant, an NGO that shelters abused and exploited children. This was the life that Hanif fled. It's a Dara or Quranic school in Dakar. There are hundreds of such schools across the region, though the Senegalese capital is the centre of the system. The teachers, known as marabout, train students in a conservative brand of Islam. A few add a smattering of other disciplines like maths and science. It is a deeply respected form of education, and they draw boys from across the region, often sending older Talibe to recruit more students.
There are a lot of families who were running from the war between Bissau and Casamance, and they gave me their children to teach the Quran.
Parents pay nothing. That doesn't mean it's free though. To cover the cost of books, food, accommodation and the teachers' fees, children are sent into the streets to beg. Throughout Dakar, beggar Talibe are now so common that they're almost invisible, a part of the landscape. On street corners, in markets, they beg for food and money. An estimated 100,000 of them in this city alone. Their hands out, asking for whatever people can spare.
This is part of the Islamic education. This makes us strong. People will never hear us complaining like others. This is our way. It's always been that way, and we have to continue like this.
In the past, when the Daras were integrated into the village, everyone knew the boys and kept an eye on them. Begging was a form of community support. But now, in the big cities, away from the village oversight, there are simply too many opportunities for abuse. Children like Hanif are ordered to bring back a daily quota of cash or face a beating.
We always had to go begging. We had to bring back 500 francs, or the marabout will beat us with an electric cable.
I think that we have to sensitize the public, not so much about the problem, but about the consequences.
Le fait que des enfants soient livrés à eux-mêmes.
We need to weigh the consequences.
Le fait que des enfants soient obligés de tendre leurs mains.
The fact that children are led to their own devices has a lot of risk.
Pris par cet inconnu à d'autres fins comporte également des risques graves.
By almost any standard, the boys' lives are tough. They eat whatever scraps sympathetic people might offer. They feed, study and sleep on the ground. Once they've left their families, most won't see them again for years, if ever. It's a tradition, yes, but one that now makes children extraordinarily vulnerable to abuse and exploitation. It's also one of the most insidious forms of child trafficking, where children are taken from their homes and set to work for the benefit of another. The Senegalese government acknowledges the problem, but insists it must be tackled at a regional level.
According to statistics, we have about 400,000 exploited children in Senegal. Among them are children from Senegal, but there are also children from the region, because it is a transnational phenomenon which implicates all the countries of the sub-region.
But governments are just a part of the solution. Agencies like the International Organization for Migration argue that families themselves must understand what their children go through.
The families have to be informed, have to be warned, have to be really part of fighting trafficking. It's not only the government, but the civil society and the public at large have to be part of the fight.
Of course, it's not just boys who are exposed to trafficking. Hundreds of thousands of girls, some as young as 5 or 6, are sent to work as domestic servants across the region. Others are forced into prostitution or work in the fields. Here too, there are no watchful parents to monitor them, no caring relatives to make sure they have a decent upbringing, and few authorities to protect their rights.
In a way, we can talk about modern slavery. It's not like slavery of the past, but it is still slavery because these are girls who don't have any freedom. They have no right to leisure time or the right to go out, and they have to take care of the house. That's why we talk about modern slavery.
My name is Theresa and I'm 13 years old. I do domestic work like cooking, cleaning and so on. I start work at 7 in the morning and finish at about 7 or 8 at night. I clean, cook and mend all day.
Theresa's story is typical. 3 years ago, when she was 9, her brother was here. Theresa says she wants to work for the sake of her family, but she's still desperately homesick.
One is only happy when one is in the middle of their own family, because when you're working, whatever it is, you will always find something that makes you sad. I'm only working for the future. One day I hope everything will be all right.
Consider the fact that some traditions inhibit the full development of children, meaning that we need to fight against practices that contradict their fundamental rights and also fight against poverty.
Also as domestics. There is also the economic crisis, the precariousness of the condition that affects rural areas that doesn't encourage families to bring their children home.
Often they simply can't. Families of domestic workers are sometimes and one less mouth to feed. And even if these domestic workers are not indentured, they are still under intense pressure to carry on. As miserable as their lives can be, they know that their families are often dependent on whatever they earn and send back home. Poverty underpins so much of the problem here. These girls share a tiny airless room to save money. They are paid wages and they could, in theory, quit their jobs, but they work at least 12 hours a day.
7,000 francs, and